What's going on, guys? Cody here again with another ride review. Today we're going to be doing a first impression ride on this brand new 2022 Indian FTR. It is just the base model. With this we got the 1203cc V-twin making 120 horsepower, 87 foot-pounds of torque. Wet and ready to ride. We're coming in right about 514 pounds. With that said, let's hop on the bike and let's go for a ride. Right, with these bikes, one of the features that we got here starting out with the bike in neutral with the key power on, just put the start switch into the on position, just tap the button, it'll start itself. We'll let the bike warm up here for a bit here. Today we are out at our Watkins location at our Indian motorcycle spot. If you ever got any Indian questions, feel free to reach out to Shannon here. He is our Indian motorcycle specialist. He is here and ready to help you with any questions you might have or get you on the right bike. Alright, just cycling through the features here, we have got your little switch over here. We'll cycle through your menu options here. As you can see, this bike has been test driven a few times. We've got 82 miles on it. And then over on this side, obviously you got your left, your right. Hold it in straight and you'll put your hazards on. Then you got your headlights actually up here. And then we got cruise control as well and your horn at the bottom. Alright, let's go for a ride. Now with the FTR, we've got a 6-speed transmission, kind of right off the gate here. My first impression, shifts nice and smooth. I myself, I'm personally more of a standard motorcycle style person. I enjoyed the cruisers, but I do like the seating position and kind of more of the rear set style controls for the shifter and the brakes for the feet. Kind of more on the rear like this one is personally. If you're somebody that's ridden, say, like a Yamaha MT-09 or something, I think seating wise feel very familiar to you. Got a nice straight road here, cruising at about 50, even in 6th gear if you just roll on the throttle. Absolutely no lack of power with this thing. This is the type of bike, power-wise, that it will do what you ask it to do. Kind of side to side here, kind of just rocking back and forth. It is a little bit heavier style bike for this standard style. Say, you know, if you are comparing it to something like an MT-09 or like a CB or something, it is heavier than the counterparts. But I don't know if you could really directly compare the two fairly, just with the engine being totally different. Say your MTs have got more of parallel engines. A lot of the big Japanese manufacturers using the parallel engines versus this just being a big old American V-twin. With that said, leaning over does not feel like it's anything too crazy. It actually feels very nice. Going through the corners just back there felt just fine to me, even with it being a little bit heavier. Kind of like I said in the beginning of the video here, this is a first impression video for me here doing it for you. I've never ridden an FTR before, sat on them plenty, This is what I would consider to be probably my dream bike. I'm just grateful I got the chance to actually take one out and take it for a ride here and share the experience with you. Now, as far as horsepower goes, like I said, it's 120. It's not the most powerful bike in the world, but it is, you know, where it makes up for, you know, maybe what some would consider a lack of horsepower, it definitely makes up for in its torque numbers. You can definitely feel it. I would not say that this is a bike I would recommend for somebody that's never ridden one before. Now, granted, a lot of these FTRs do have, you know, different riding modes, say like sport, standard, and rain. But even with that, I would still suggest starting on something smaller. Now, if you're dead set on doing something like this for your first bike, it's totally doable. I don't know what it would feel like after 100 miles or a couple hours of riding. I'm sure, you know, being more of a sport-oriented bike, it probably wouldn't be the most comfortable bike on a long haul. But if you're just looking for a weekend cruiser or a commuter to and from work, I think it does just fine. One thing I would maybe change out is just these factory mirrors. They're a little small, personally. They stick up a little bit. I don't mind how they look, but if they were even just another inch out on either side, I think it'd be in a little bit easier spot just for visibility without feeling like you gotta do the whole chicken wing thing here. Now, if this is the type of bike that you're pretty interested, you know, if you're doing the research on it, one of the things that you've probably read online is the gas mileage on them. They're really not known well for their fuel consumption. I can definitely attest to that. I left the shop maybe 10 miles ago, with about half a tank. I was at the 3rd bar, and we are already down to the 2nd. If you're riding with a group of guys, you know, if everybody else has got you know, bigger bikes that are more fuel efficient, or if they're on cruisers, or even, you know, the Japanese style bikes with a smaller displacement, you'll probably be the one that's waving everybody down, telling them that you need to fill up the tank there. Slow speed cornering is pretty nice, very predictable. Really don't feel the weight of the bike. It's really well balanced. Kind of coming through this little small town here. As you can see, the road's pretty bumpy here, just with a lot of the cracks being fixed. Suspension's definitely a little stiff. I can definitely feel it in the handlebars. If you live in an area that's got a lot of roads like that, you maybe would get a little sick of it after a while. But it's not too bad. Plenty of acceleration to go around. You definitely will not have any problem getting up to the speed and keeping up with traffic. I think these kinds of roads on this route that I'm taking here are proven to be pretty well suited to what the FTR is meant to do. You got your straightaways to kind of crack her open and have that kind of fun. But plenty of twisties as well. Kind of going back to earlier what I was saying about this bike maybe not being best suited for a beginner, even though you can get the ones that got the rider modes on them. With the amount of torque that this bike has got, if you are still somebody that's learning how to control your clutch and your throttle and maybe don't have the best control over those things, like if you're still taking off from a stop and pretty jerky, or a little jerky with the throttle, it is not hard to feel like the front wheel of this bike is going to get up. And if that's something that you're not comfortable with doing, you're not going to have a good time. I wouldn't necessarily say I wouldn't recommend it. But if you don't have the level of mental maturity to keep yourself in situations that you're going to be safe and not causing harm to yourself or others, then yeah, go for it. I wouldn't tell anybody they shouldn't buy a bike like this. I am loving it so far. This is, like I said earlier, this is one of my dream bikes. You know, eventually when I'm at a point that I can get a nice new bike, this is definitely what I'll be looking for. But man, if you're a pretty fresh rider, I'd probably stay away unless you know for sure that you can keep yourself in check and keep the bike in check. So with this much, you know, this kind of power and torque behind it, you know, even just like I said, 6th gear, you just roll into it, she just gets up and goes. And if you don't know how to control that kind of stuff in situations that you haven't been in or an emergency situation, you know, this is a bike that if you're disrespecting it, it's definitely going to bite you back and bite you back hard. Well guys, with that said, I think that's about as much as I can say as far as riding it goes here for, you know, the little route that I've got to be able to take it on here. Let's meet back up at the shop. Well guys, we're back here at the shop here. So what are my final thoughts on this bike? Absolutely love it. Great bike. Handles phenomenally. Plenty of power to keep you happy. I really don't think that, personally at least myself, this is a bike that I could find myself getting bored with. If you're in the market for it, like I said, this is a 2022. We do have this one available. After that quick ride, it's got 104 miles on it. We got it at just $11,999. If you have any questions, Shannon here in our Watkins location, be more than happy to help you out. Any questions, feel free, reach out. Thanks. Have a great day.